Do you ever wonder what the Harry Potter series would look like if Harry was a girl and every other character was the opposite gender? Well, Archaeopolitics presents The Girl Who Lived, a Patreon-only series that talks about just that. Every episode is based on one character or a group of related characters, and we talk about the patriarchy, what each character would do, what they would look like, how we would think about them, and much more. You can enjoy the show by becoming a patron for as little as $2 a month at patreon.com/Archaeopolitics. Hello, everyone. You're listening to Archaeopolitics. What is Archaeopolitics? Well, Archaeopolitics is a podcast about politics in the wizarding world of Harry Potter. I am still Adri, your host and a recovering English major. On today's episode, I am joined by special guests from the Swish and Flick podcast to talk about Chapter 33, The Death Eaters, of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling. And we are talking about the politics of family. But before we begin, I'd like to thank our newest patron, Gail Karp. Patrons like Gail make this show possible. If you'd like to become a patron, you could go to patreon.com/Archaeopolitics, where you can get access to really cool rewards. Well, today I am joined not by one guest. No, I'm joined by two wonderful guests from the Swish and Flick podcast, Megan and Katie. Hi.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you for coming on. I'm fangirling out and freaking out.
Well, you're going to find out shortly we're just like two big boring nerds, so I hope we don't disappoint.
My favorite kind of nerds.
True, because it's Harry Potter.
That's true.
Of course. How are you doing today?
Doing good.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a fallish day today, so I can't complain.
Beautiful outside.
Oh my God, take me there. I'm in San Antonio and it's a summer day.
Oh, no, it is like nice and cool here.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, no. I think summer stops being summer here in like late October.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, don't melt.
Fun. So tell us, when did you first encounter the magic that is the Harry Potter books? What was your love story like?
Would you like to go first?
Yeah, okay, so this is Megan, just so that you guys can know our voices. But so my mom bought me the first book probably back in like 1998, first when it came out. And she was like, you should read this. Everybody loves it. And I was that kid that was like, Mom, I don't want to read what everybody loves. I want to read what I want to read. And I don't want to read Harry Potter. So, yeah, so I ignored the book for a while. And then finally, like, I got intrigued and I read the first couple chapters, I guess, right before Keeper of the Keys. I would stop at Keeper of the Keys multiple times. And I don't know, like, I get so mad at myself because I'm like, if you had just read like one more paragraph, you would have been hooked so much sooner. But it wasn't until my mom took me to go see the first movie in 2001. It was Christmas break, and she took me, and I fell head over heels in love with it. Read the first 4 books, because that's all that was out at that point, over Christmas break within the 2 weeks at age 11, and waited very impatiently for Order of the Phoenix the following summer.
Yeah, I have a pretty similar story. My aunt bought me the first 2 books, and they sat on a shelf forever. I tried reading it. I was like, this is boring. What the heck is Grunnings? Like, who cares? And then finally my dad was like, let's go see this movie. We should see this movie. And my life has literally been changed ever since.
Well, that is almost similar to my experience, only I actually went past that hump of reading like the first 40 pages and was instantly hooked, only because I was stuck with my family for Christmas. And I would desperately do anything to avoid interacting with my family, my extended family, because they all bullied me. So,
Oh,
Well,
okay.
Harry Potter's a good world to get lost in when that happens.
oh yeah.
Also, I felt righteous because I was like, Harry's family bullies him too.
True.
Yeah, there you go. You found a home.
Oh, yeah. So I was just like, okay, take me away from this. Like, this is all so boring. At least this book is not worse than my situation currently.
True.
Oh, it's so cute that you guys got into it because of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish that I hadn't. I wish that I'd gotten into it before that so that I could have like created a vision in my mind of what the characters were. I guess I was able to for like later characters, which was still fun, but I wish that I would have had like a vision before Daniel Radcliffe of Harry.
Yeah.
But so to
agreed.
me, like young Dan is always just Harry because that's who I was introduced as.
Yeah, I have, because maybe I got into it, before the movies came out. I have very distinct visions in my head of Harry versus of the characters versus the actors.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I wish I did.
To the point where I think like some people might get like, oh, you're so uppity about this. And I'm like, they're just actors, guys.
Right. Yeah. They could have picked anybody.
Literally anyone. Like for me, like Harry's much more gangly than like Daniel.
Yeah. And like Ron should have been taller.
Yeah.
Yeah. Freckly.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's just me.
No, I totally get it.
So we're at Hogwarts already. You put on the sorting hat. What house do you get?
I, Megan, am a Slytherin, loud and proud.
Love it.
Yeah.
And me, Katie, I'm a super proud Hufflepuff. Ultimate snack enthusiast. Kind and loyal to all.
I mean, snack enthusiast is a lot of us.
Yeah. That's true.
So we almost have all the houses here. We're just missing a Ravenclaw.
Oh yeah, Sarah's our Ravenclaw on Swish and Flick. Mm-hmm. She is a good one. Honestly, I feel like I don't know that many Ravenclaws.
I don't either.
I feel like all I know are Ravenclaws, guys.
Really?
That's so weird.
Yes.
That's weird.
I am surrounded by Ravenclaws at all times. My former co-host Erin is a Ravenclaw. You don't change houses. My husband is a Ravenclaw. Like most of my friends are Ravenclaws, and I'm like, guys, where are my fellow Gryffindors at?
Yeah, I feel like I'm surrounded by Slytherins and Hufflepuffs, to be honest.
Yeah, there's a lot of us.
I mean, there's not a bad mix in any thing to be surrounded by, but I'm just like, maybe I am so like, I don't know, Gryffindors, too many Gryffindors together might also be a problem, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, you can be a little overbearing with your bravery.
Can have too many lions in the pride.
Too extra is what I call it.
That's accurate. Slytherin can be the same way. It's fine.
I think, and I think that's also a thing with like Gryffindors and Slytherins, like that extra type.
It's because we're super similar.
Yes, because and that's what maybe sometimes like in the series itself repels those two houses, is how similar they are, not how different they are.
Right.
Yeah.
See, with Puffs, you could have like a whole country full of just Hufflepuffs, and it'd be great.
No such thing.
World peace.
Right.
Yeah. I love my Puffs. I love all my houses anyway.
I agree. But there's nothing wrong with any of the houses. That's why
there are bad people in all houses, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Truth.
True.
Speaking of a bad Gryffindor, Peter Pettigrew, you know?
Oh yeah, he's important in this chapter too.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh,
gross. But we're not in the summary yet. I have other questions for y'all.
Yes.
Who's your favorite character?
Katie, go for it. Yours is fast and easy.
Remus Lupin. Hands down. Love great. Me, that cuddly little werewolf.
A man who's cuddly and has chocolate? Sign me up.
Oh, yes.
Sign me up.
Absolutely.
Mine is Lily. I just love how I just love her role as mom, even though we don't really get to see a lot of her. She's a great human. Was a great human.
Oh, sad tweet.
Ooh, that hurt.
Oh.
Okay. Well, and hopefully more uplifting notes. What career would you have in the Potterverse?
We would both have the same career, right?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No?
Go
Are
ahead.
you changing it?
Yeah.
What?
Just want to keep you on your toes.
First.
I would want to work for the Daily Prophet and do like design, because that's what I do in real time life, except not for a newspaper, but you know, just out in the world, I do graphic design. And I think that to design with magic would be extra magical.
No pun intended.
Correct.
If I didn't do that, I'm thinking just like completely flipping it, you know, and like being not what my real-time life job is. I'd want to be a magizoologist.
Oh, yeah.
Aww.
You idolize
so
Newt.
Cool. Yes, Newt is amazing. Probably like the best puff around. And I love animals, and like getting to care for magical creatures.
What about
really cool.
acromantulas?
Well, I didn't say I'd care for all of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She would select them based on cuddliness factors.
Right.
So lots of nifflers.
Lots of nifflers. Okay. I would have a niffler ranch, niffler rescue.
Yeah, just keep away all shiny objects, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Moon calves.
Oh my God. Moon calves.
Yeah. Little llamas with big eyes.
That's why I like them, because they're llamas.
I can co-sign all of this. I love nifflers. Although I think I would be a professor for sure.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Tiffany would be a professor, so.
And that is not even my real day job. Like my real day job is boring and not magical, but it's okay. Which is
we all
why
gotta
we have
do what we gotta do. Yeah, exactly.
I hear that.
Okay. So my last question is, has the series impacted your politics? And if so, how?
1,000%. Yes. I think that I'm not sure how you could read this series and have it not influence what you believe in. Mm-hmm. And I think you'd have to try pretty hard for it to not influence you. I just think like I remember finding this article online that said that people who have read Harry Potter tend to be kinder people, as well as, you know, in terms of their politics and like what they believe in and what they vote for and what they want in the world. And I think that, you know, to just watch Cornelius Fudge be completely just doesn't want to believe in anything that's being shown to him. Like you would never want somebody like that to run your country. So I don't think that you would ever vote for somebody like that, you know? And like you kind of get to see the behind, and you don't get to see the behind the scenes in Harry Potter, but like you can understand it as a whole and like see the outcome of what happened because he was so blind to everything that was going on. So in a way, like people who are super into the series, I would think that you would always think of those kinds of things when it comes to what you would vote for and vote in and just believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think just having this series shape me as I grew up. I mean, I grew up with Harry, you know, it was like the same age as it was coming out and everything. And then now with Swish and Flick, we're doing this reread. Some of the books I haven't touched in years. So it's almost like a first time all over again. And with the current climate going on, as we're going into book 5, I mean, a lot of it is insane parallels. And I mean, it's helping me draw conclusions. It's reopening my eyes to things. And I don't know, it's helpful.
Yeah, which is kind of like how this podcast got started, because I was listening to the 7th book on a drive to Santa Fe, and, you know, the political climate was starting, and I was just like, oh my God, like these parallels, they're just too much. And then I was just like, what if I did a reread podcast and it was just centered on politics?
Yeah.
And I hadn't touched the books in, I want to say, more than 10 years, honestly.
Yeah.
And so now I try to not spoil myself. So I haven't like read beyond usually what I'm recording with the guest. So like when I get to book 5, I haven't touched book 5 maybe in more than 10 years. So it's going to be really interesting.
Your mind is going to just be blown.
I'm in a very similar boat. Yeah.
Yeah. Katie hasn't read them in a long time. I kind of have. I've been jumping ahead and I listen to them a lot on audio book and.
Oh, I love Audible versions of this.
Jim Dale is like, I love him.
He's everything, right?
Yeah. He's the best.
No. Yeah. So, I think that you guys are right in that it impacts your politics in that way. And also I think I've read like this psychological study about how reading impacts your like perception because you are kind of going through everything the character is going through. So it allows you to empathize more broadly. If you read something that has a character who's a person of color, for instance, you can empathize more with people of color moving forward because in a way you've lived through that, which is why it's so important. This is why representation is so important in books and movies, and responsible representation too, right? Like I don't need to see another movie about slaves and white saviorism, because that's not going to help anyone empathize. That's just the topic of that is like white people save Black people all the time, and white people are good and Black people need saving.
Right.
So, which, you know, none of those things are true, but, but which is, you know, when people talk about representation, of course, you want to see yourself on screen as, you know, person of color, LGBTQ plus, or, you know, any other underrepresented minority being as like the main point of interest in a movie or in a book. But you also want it to be responsible. Like you don't want to take like these narratives that make it all about other people, even though you have a main character who can be underrepresented elsewhere.
Right. I think in general, reading just makes you a more empathetic person. Like I feel people who don't read that often, they don't tend to understand issues that they haven't encountered. When there's somebody who may not have encountered issues, like, you know, me being a 29-year-old white female, I've never encountered what it may be like for someone my age who is of color to go through something, even if it's something that I myself have gone through. I didn't go through it in those shoes, but you could find a book potentially where that character is that person. And like you said, like you would feel it just like they felt because you're reading their emotions. So I think that people who don't branch out and read different books, like reading in general, not just Harry Potter, but just like overall reading will impact your politics because of those things.
I mean, you get to walk different paths of life that way.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and I also see it as like reading as like the written word as a tool that can help shape minds and like propel ideologies. And it could be great, and it could also be very destructive. Like we've seen with the internet, like how people have gotten radicalized on the internet with these forums, right? So it's not just a narrative. I mean, it is a narrative that they're seeing online, but it's written word that has the capacity to radicalize people far away, you know, like across like the United States. Like a lot of these mass shooters, like the Dallas one, was radicalized online.
Yeah, you got to be responsible with your words, you know?
Please, people, be responsible with your words. Like, don't be a Death Eater, which we are going to see in this chapter.
Yeah.
Another group of radicalized men, mostly. So this chapter is chapter 33 of Goblet of Fire, and it is called The Death Eaters.
It is.
Boy. And in this chapter, obviously, we see Death Eaters, but not before Voldemort rises and gives us kind of like the Batman speech, right?
Yes, the monologue.
His theatrics.
He's very extra, this Voldemort, folks. I don't know.
He's a diva.
He really is a diva.
I don't know what you heard about him before, but he's a little bit extra.
He'll tell you all about it.
Yeah, he will. Before he does anything, he'll talk for hours.
It's a good trope and also a good mark of a bad/good villain.
True.
So he's talking to us / Harry, and he's talking about his father and how he murdered his father, and because his father kind of left his mom for being a witch. What else do we learn in that moment?
Well, I kind of feel in that moment too, like he doesn't really say or maybe know the whole story there either.
Exactly. Yes.
So it's what he believes, and that's what he's taken, and that's why he's done the things he's done, but it's basically like all wrong.
Well, it's his narrative, right? Like this is his narrative, and he's not actually thinking about the truth. He's talking about a narrative that shapes him for who he is and what he's done, and he doesn't want to hear otherwise.
Okay, so he's talking about, what happens with his parents, but then he goes into say my true family returns, which means the Death Eaters, which I find kind of funny because a lot of them turned their back on him in an instant.
Well, his true family were people who basically were like, oh, we didn't mean to do the things we were doing. We were under enchantment. Please, why don't you forgive us and let us back into Wizard Society?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the Malfoys, I mean, as soon as they had their out, they were out.
But they returned knowing that if they didn't return, they would be hunted down.
Oh, yeah.
They're on the side that they feel is always ahead. That's how a lot of these people are. And I think the same goes for Wormtail especially. Like, I was telling Katie before we started recording, I was like, do you really think that Wormtail believes everything that Voldemort says or says that he believes in? I don't think so. And I'm not saying that makes Wormtail an okay person. It still makes him a bad person because he's following this person that says these things. But I think that he literally just follows who he believes is going to win.
Do you think that actually makes him worse then?
I was thinking about that when you mentioned it. Like,
yeah.
It makes him a terrible person in just a totally different way.
Yeah.
Like, Voldemort is just pure evil.
Right.
Wormtail is like, oh, you're that kind of person. Like, Voldemort's just straight up EVIL, But then there's Wormtail where, I mean, you could know someone like that, just someone manipulative, and
he's almost more relatable in a scary way. Like Voldemort, like how many people can you say, oh, I know somebody who's like that? That's why I feel like almost Umbridge is so evil to a lot of people because she's so relatable. Like you can have somebody like that in your life. And I feel the same way with Wormtail.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, I think for me, Wormtail is a little bit worse in a sense because he's not following an ideology.
Mm-hmm.
He is following what he thinks would gain him power. So in a way, it's not even like he has like a moral or an ideological reason to do what he's doing.
Right.
That's a good point.
And it's scary.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's why he is a Gryffindor, because he's not, in my opinion, he's not brave and he's not chivalrous, but he values those things because that's what he follows. He follows who he feels is the bravest and the most chivalrous, and in a negative way. You know what I'm saying?
In a really twisted way.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't think ambition or cunningness is, because a lot of people like throw him in Slytherin, and I'm just like, no, get him out of here.
I don't think so. You're right. I think he follows like the dark, twisted side of bravery, which is that like bravery in a twisted sense about like just boastful and arrogant. Like I'm right and I know I'm right and I'm going against all odds kind of bravery that is not like good bravery in my book, obviously. But In this chapter, we also hear about how, Peter Pettigrew as a rat and with his affinity with rats kind of went and sought Lord Voldemort out when he knew he was in trouble and that his friends were going to try to find him and kill him.
It was like a last resort for him.
Yeah, I mean, he'd been living in the Weasley household for like 12 years, right? Like,
Right.
he could have done this at any time.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Yeah, here comes, you've been outed. Your old friends know you're still around and that you're the reason all this happened.
And he knows Sirius is revengeful.
Oh, yeah. So where else are you going to go?
Sirius is super relatable to me, honestly.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree.
My level of pettiness and just like, oh, I won't forget what you did, but I'm just going to wait till the right moment is just masterful. It's chef's kiss.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so we go through this whole like narrative, and Voldemort is talking to his Death Eaters and like kind of like putting them down for not looking for him, but also putting Peter down for like being like, you only sought me out because you're a coward. Which is like, man, like abusive stepfather much.
Yeah.
He's like this father figure for this family of like outcasts, or so they like to think of themselves as. And he's just like chastising them, but also knowing that he can't just kill them all because he still needs them.
It's a weird situation. It's like, yeah, he's clearly angry at all of them, but he knows that if he says it in his speech that he was helpless. There was no way for him to come back without somebody. So I think that kind of is ingrained in his mind. Like, yes, I would love to just go on a killing spree right now, but I really can't do that if I want, my ideals to come to fruition. Ideas.
Well, do you think maybe it's like that idea of like better the devil you know? Of like, well, at least I know I've known them and they've been already associated with me. So it's less detectable than if I recruited new members.
Yeah, I think so.
Like this is a strategic move for Voldemort, not about like real family affection.
Right.
No, not at all.
Like it kind of makes me laugh in a weird way that he calls them his true family when like you can tell that he really doesn't, but he does. It's almost like I need them to feel like they're my family, so I'm going to say it.
Well, and maybe he just doesn't know what a family should look like because he was in the orphanage for that long or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true too.
He has a twisted sense of family.
A little bit.
For sure.
Just a bit, just a tad.
For sure.
Just a sprinkle. Speaking of sprinkles, we get Wormtail gets a new hand eventually after he's like bleeding out for about 20 minutes.
Right. Like, should he be alive? Not sure about that.
Yeah, not sure that he should be alive at that point, but I'm pretty sure Rowling is not a medical expert. So
we'll let that one slide.
Yeah.
Just maybe she should have consulted a doctor before that. Which is something also last chapter, we discussed, Helene and I discussed this of like, did it have to be the whole hand? It could have been like a tip of a finger, guys. Come on.
Yeah. Well, Voldemort is dramatic.
He's super extra. Yeah. Like just, I want your whole hand. That one. Well, yes.
We discussed in one of our chapter episodes that, maybe Voldemort really had a downfall because the hand that Wormtail used was missing a finger. So it was not a whole hand.
You know what? That makes sense. Completely.
Yeah.
It's just not a whole hand or defective hand. There
exactly.
You go. So then we learn what really happened to one Bertha Jorkins.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
R.I.P.
Bertha.
Rest in power.
Yeah.
And, we get a lot of monologue in this chapter. Not much action other than monologue.
A lot of talking.
Lots of talking. We get appearance by one Lucius Malfoy. We don't get to see his hair, but we know it's him.
Yeah. Good old Crabbe and Goyle.
Yes, just as bright and bubbly as their, offspring.
Oh, God.
McNair comes back.
Yes. And a few missing Death Eaters.
Yeah. Well, some are dead.
Some are dead, yes.
Some are in prison.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And some are running away or at Hogwarts.
Yep.
I wonder who that could be.
Oh, I wonder. I don't know. We'll see next time. And I think that's it for the chapter. Like, what else? Did we miss something?
No, a big part was just monologue, Bertha Jorkins. Well, we learn about the fact that why it was so important for Voldemort to use Harry.
Right.
It had to be his blood, and then he literally shows that he can touch him.
Because again,
I can touch you.
Voldy's extra.
Yeah, and instead of punching the boy, she's just like caressing the cheek or whatever.
Yeah, just put a finger right on your cheek. And then he says, let's duel. Wormtail, untie him.
Mm-hmm.
And ton, then something happens next chapter. But that's where we end this chapter.
Yep.
Do you remember the first time you read this chapter and if you had any thoughts on it?
I actually remember this book was a struggle for me as a kid.
Okay.
This has always been my least favorite book, except now I'm appreciating it more as an adult.
Same. I'm like, why did I not like this book? It's so good.
But I remember reading this and I remember taking a moment and flipping through pages and I'm like, he's still talking. And I was like, how am I going to get through this?
I remember the same thing. I was just like, oh my God, why will he not just shut up? I'm over it.
I would look and how quotations will just continue on to the next paragraph.
Yeah.
Paragraph. I was like, oh my God, he just keeps going and going.
Baby Megan and Katie were like, where is the action?
Yes, pretty much.
I'm like, so is he going to kill Harry or what? Can we get to this?
I need to know.
Harry's just tied up here.
There's 3 more books. Who's going to be the main character?
Right. I think the whole time I was reading this chapter, I was just like, is Harry literally just standing there? What is going on with Harry?
Do you think Harry was like, oh my God, shut up already. Enough about you. What about me? I'm trapped here.
I feel like at this point, this is really Harry got to encounter him in Sorcerer's Stone, but this is the first time he really sees what Voldemort is like, I think, in terms of his speeches and how dramatic he can be and how this all has to be a show. And it's more than just Voldemort getting his body back and pointing a wand at Harry and killing him. It is he has to prove himself almost because he cannot believe that this child was his downfall. Well, and I think that Harry is realizing that in this chapter a lot. It's obviously there's a lot of other things going on in Harry's mind right now, like R.I.P. Cedric, but
well, I feel in this chapter when you're talking about this adult can't believe this child was his downfall, I felt that in the workplace a lot where I'm all these older baby boomer generation professionals don't know how to use PDF or Word, and then I come in and do literal magic on their computers or whatever, and they're like, I cannot believe this child has been my downfall. That's what I'm thinking right now.
I literally feel you on a personal level with that story. Yeah.
It's getting less and less being less and less of a thing lately as I've grown older into my 30s. I just turned 33, but I feel like I look maybe late 20s still, hopefully.
Yeah.
But so I'm in a managerial position now at work, and oftentimes I get the look of aren't you too young to be leading your team or whatever? I'm like, I am magic. Calm down, baby boomers.
Do you know what Harry did at 11? Okay.
Honestly.
As a baby. Do you know what Harry did as a baby? Are you familiar with our Lord and Savior, Harry Potter? But today we're going to talk about the politics of family. And when I'm thinking about politics of family, I started thinking about how our definition of family, it depends on like our culture, right? Like, what is the definition of you guys for family?
Honestly, like whoever has your back, you know, that could be my best friend. I mean, I consider my best friend to be my family because she's always there for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think it has to be blood, because I think that some people that have some blood relatives really don't have your back, and you just clash with them, or you know, something else happens. There's always family drama, you know. So I don't know. I think chosen family, whether that is your blood and a mix of blood and friends or whatever, chosen family is where it's at.
Yeah, I've always believed that blood means nothing, honestly. I was adopted, so obviously I share no blood with anybody that would be in a normal society considered my family. So like number 1 and 2 will always be and have always been my mom and dad, but none of the 3 of us share any blood. So I think that, you know, and they've taken Katie in, so there's 4 of us. None of us have any relation in terms of blood, but we are all family. And that's kind of always how, exactly what Katie said. It's the people who have your back and who are there for you absolutely no matter what.
That is gorgeous. So when I grew up, my mom was very big into like, your family is your blood family, you know, like, so I think like in Puerto Rico, especially, maybe because it's Caribbean culture, it's like, you know, you have to stick close to your family. And I had a really hard time grasping that because there was some toxic members in my mom's side of the family that I just couldn't call for me like my family. Even now they try to be nice to me, but they were like super toxic when I was growing up, and I'm like no, too late, sorry, you're not
right.
Like you're someone I know, but you're not my family for me. And like for me, you're right, like my family is the people who I've chosen to, you know, spend my life with, and people who have my back, and you know, my husband, my chihuahuas, like that's my like nuclear family.
Right.
My husband
Our
and
cats.
3 chihuahuas. And but this is like I also think about like cultural definitions of families, and in ways like my brother, there's nothing wrong, seemingly wrong in like my mom's eyes, that he still lives with family members. And I'm like, he should go out on his own. He's like 28, guys. I think it's time. But it's gendered, and it's full of expectations, and it's very socially conscious. Whereas like in an American view of culture, like a dude who loves to play video games should be living out on his own and not with family. Because he's like a mooch or something, even though he works or whatever. But like, I don't know. It's really interesting, like what each person calls family. And here Voldemort is calling his Death Eaters family.
Yeah. And he's obviously chosen, well, I guess it's kind of mutual. They've chosen each other to have this thing, whatever it is, but they decide to call it family.
Air quotes.
This thing they call family. That is correct. And it's a toxic family at that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Who boy.
Well, yeah, it's because, you know, again, family can mean different things to different people. And I think that what makes it such a toxic family is the fact that they are bonded together, but for bad reasons. So that's why I think this is my opinion, but I think that's why it's important in my eyes that family is who you choose to be with all the time. You know what I'm saying? So like, and like I have different ideals for, yes, like I've chosen Katie to be my family, but the reason why I've chosen Katie to be my family is very different from why Voldemort chose Lucius Malfoy to be family.
Oh God,
so
yeah.
It's all about like the reasons behind your choice that makes it toxic or good.
I mean, I'm sure Katie also has really good hair. But
she does.
That's not the primary reason that either Voldemort or you chose people to be family.
Right.
No, nobody chose Voldemort for his hair.
No,
Well,
or his nose.
But Lucius did.
True.
Lucius, yes.
True.
I always joke about Lucius's hair because I cannot. That's the one I can't get
so
rid
good.
of.
It's just good.
Jason Isaacs with his wig as Lucius Malfoy.
Yes,
to me, Lucius. That's the one. That's the only one, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
So what is it that makes a toxic family to you guys? Like for me, it's not being supportive or just being kind of manipulative to like make people do what you want them to do.
I think there's two different ways to be a toxic family. I think one would be, yes, to not have a support system. Because again, like we have two definitions of family. So like I do have blood family, but some of them aren't a good support system. So that's toxic. But then I have family that I've chosen. We are a support system. So we're a good family. So I think that, yeah, not having a support system, manipulating people to do what you want them to do, or even in terms of like Voldemort, you guys, like, not you guys, they have similar ideals and they're bonded together with those ideals, but they're bad ideals. So, yeah. So even though like they think that they have a good thing going, obviously we know it's toxic.
Yeah, that's true.
I really need like Britney Spears in the background right now.
Yeah. You're slipping under. That's correct.
Yeah.
I agree with everything, so I won't repeat that. But I think also a lot of families like to sweep under the rug some internal family problems that might be going on, and then
do they?
People get away with things, and that hurts other people, and
yeah,
you know what I mean. And
yeah.
I think you pull a Neville, stand up to the people you love, call them out on things, because otherwise it's just it's literally like a rot from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Well, speaking of toxic families, have you guys heard about The Family, the Netflix docuseries?
I haven't. I tried to look it up a little bit before, but I didn't have time to like read everything about it. I have it pulled up though on Google.
I haven't started watching it yet, but I do know what it's about. It's about like this like evangelical radicalized group that calls themselves The Family.
Oh boy.
And they have been covertly trying to get and have actually gotten into like their ideals into politics, and the way they do it is not unlike ISIS radicalizes their faith. Now they just radicalize Jesus.
So that sounds like Handmaid's Tale stuff.
Basically.
Interesting.
And it's been happening since the 70s, I believe, or 60s.
Oh, yeah, we don't need that in politics.
No.
Bye.
So, it's this group that talks about how like if Jesus were alive today, that he'd be a Navy SEAL, like he'd be this tough guy, and like it's all about how you're just a tool for God to get his ideals into politics. So really, when you think about it, it's almost like that like Death Eater type scenario where it's not you, Lucius Malfoy, who's killing this person. It's Lord Voldemort who's killing this person. Through you.
Oh, God. That's terrifying.
So when you have a senator make a decision that even they might be struggling with, right? Because they have maybe people in their lives that would be affected by it. The senator could say, I'm just a tool for God and I'm just doing his will.
Right, I'm just following orders.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think I need to watch this and get real angry.
That is literally The Handmaid's Tale, and it makes my blood boil.
Yes, so I think we're not too far off from that future.
Right.
Sadly. And we just need to arm ourselves against it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go vote.
Go vote. Yeah, I didn't mean literal arming people.
Yeah.
I don't like guns. Thank you.
No.
I don't know how to transition this, but let's talk about quotes because
there was no way.
I don't like guns. Let's talk about quotes.
Well, we could also talk about like the family in the White House that we also do not like.
Right.
But I don't know if we want to expend that much energy in that.
This episode would be real long.
Also, just I don't want us to like get really down and then have to force ourselves to be upbeat because I've already brought us down enough.
You're fine.
We appreciate it. No, it's all good. It's all good.
Or rather, our reality has brought us down enough.
Right.
Oh, man. So quotes.
So I chose the quote, "You see that house upon the hillside, Potter? My father lived there. My mother, a witch who lived here in this village, fell in love with him, but he abandoned her when she told him what she was. He didn't like magic, my father. He left her and returned to his Muggle parents before I was even born, Potter, and she died giving birth to me, leaving me to be raised in a Muggle orphanage. But I vowed to find him. I revenged myself upon him, that fool who gave me his name, Tom Riddle." So I chose this quote because I think that it's interesting to me that this is his narrative in terms of what he thinks happened with his family, or what he's telling himself what happened with his family. And that is like, it seems to be a really big basis of everything that he does. Not only that, but he ended up just now using the bones of his father to come back to life. And I think that it's just interesting to me that I don't know if maybe he's just saying this to make himself feel better about it, though I don't really think he has any emotions or cares in any way about the things that he does. But he's taking it all and putting it on his Muggle father, when in reality, it was actually his mother that was in the wrong. And, his mother is the one who is a descendant of Slytherin. So I think in his eyes, she's not going to do any wrong because, oh my gosh, she is the descendant of Salazar Slytherin. Like, we're perfect or something. I don't know what goes through his mind. That's just what I'm guessing. But, to like literally have this narrative and say he left her and returned to his Muggle parents before I was even born. He didn't like magic. Well, maybe he didn't like magic, but he maybe also didn't like magic because he was forced into a relationship with a love potion. I might not like magic either at that point. Not only that, but then he says he gave me his name. Well, actually, his mother did. So
also, did he even know that Merope was pregnant? I don't know.
I don't think Tom Riddle knew that. That's just, it just happened. It's just very interesting.
The dude got roofied, basically.
Yes.
Basically, yeah.
And then he wakes up from like that and was like, I was raped. Is this magic? I don't like magic. Whoa, that is not an uncomfortable assumption to make.
Right.
And Voldemort thinks that, his father should have like been with his mother regardless because wizards are better than muggles anyway. Like that, maybe that's the underlying assumption here.
I see it. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. I guess I'm just at this point, I haven't read Deathly Hallows in a while, but at this point, like, I don't know if either of you guys know this, but does he know that a love potion was used, or does he really believe this? Or is he just telling himself this to make himself,
right, like
to make his story work?
I don't remember. I don't know.
Because I know that, like,
it might be cognitive dissonance for all we know.
Right. Because, like, I know that we know the story, but that was, like, through memories that Voldemort acquired, and they weren't Dumbledore. What did I say? Okay. That was through memories that Dumbledore acquired, not necessarily from Tom himself. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, like, I don't know if Voldemort really does know the real story, if this is literally what all of this is based on and it's all a lie, just interesting. And like, especially talking about family, like he has this idea in his head of this toxic family that he had, when in reality it was toxic, but for like basically flip-flopped, completely different reason. So
yeah, 100%.
Well, and I think that like the whole like Amarantia thing is like maybe a little bit problematic in the way that maybe Rowling has said it. That's the reason why Voldemort can't understand or feel love.
Yes.
And it's just like, so if someone is raped and there's a child, is that child a sociopath in this world? Like,
right.
I'm not sure that I love that logic.
I guess maybe that's just, I'm sure that her response to that would be like, well, it's because of the magic in the love potion. That would be like, I bet you that would be her answer.
I just don't know if I'm here for all the hot takes. I'm not here for all her hot takes about like her creation.
Yeah, but I totally understand that parallel and the problems with it. It's, yeah. I think that it's more of a nurture versus nature thing, honestly. Like he was raised in an orphanage, and I'm not saying, again, like I don't want this to sound like people who are raised in an orphanage don't know love, because they can, but his specific situation in the orphanage and who he was as a person, he just was filled with a lot of hate. And I think that it cultivated in that environment. And I think he let it cloud his perception of where he was. For sure. And because it's all about, it's all about how you handle things and your mental stability and mental health in terms of those, in terms of like what you're going through. Like you can be raised in an orphanage and come out 100% totally fine and be fine. But it was just a culmination of so many things with him that it was just bound to happen regardless.
Well, I think he needed a lot of mental help.
For sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It was a different time too,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, that honestly, who knows, that could have happened in real life I'm sure that it happened in real life with people who were raised in situations that weren't ideal and didn't get the help that they needed. It just doesn't work out for them.
Yeah.
You need somebody above you raising you, you need somebody there as a family figure to be looking out for you as a child and understand what you need and get you that help that you need.
Right.
And that wasn't there for him.
Well, that reminds me of another documentary series that I don't remember the name of. So sorry, everyone, about an orphanage run by nuns and like all the terrible things that happened to the children there.
Yeah.
And it would have been around a little bit later than he would have been in the orphanage. But like orphanages usually do not have like the best reputation for being like good places for kids to grow up in, around or before the 50s.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, just think back to like how mental facilities were a long time ago too, I mean, people thought that they were actually helping somebody by like shocking their brain. That doesn't work, I mean, we change in times, and thankfully, hopefully it's getting better. But yeah, Voldemort unfortunately did not have a situation that was good for him at all. And I don't think that it had anything to do with the Amortentia. I think it was just him.
I mean, and certainly there are people who grow up with like psychopathic or sociopathic tendencies too. Like that is something that is studied. Not to like put too much of a fine point in it. Like some of it might be genetic. That doesn't make you a bad person necessarily. There are people who are sociopaths who end up not murdering people and not being like terrible.
Right. Yeah, because if you can get the help that you need, then you can kind of calm that storm within,
Or you can learn to live within society in a way that you don't cause harm to others, even though you don't understand other people.
Correct.
Right. Ooh, we're getting really deep here, guys.
I know. I like it.
Katie, what's your quote?
So mine actually is like an immediate follow-up to Meg's. Oh my God, we're so cute.
Oh.
So Voldemort, Voldemort continues on and says, "Listen to me, reliving family history. Why I'm growing quite sentimental. But look, Harry, my true family returns." So we touched on this a little bit about how he says true family, but I just want to bring that to complete light, like true family. For the rest of the chapter, he literally goes on about how unfamily-like these Death Eaters are to him. So, like,
Yeah.
Firstly, none of them want to be there. I like the one quote in there that says, like, even though there was no wind, it felt like there was a rustling around the circle of the Death Eaters, as if there was like a shiver that went through them all. And I mean, Voldemort was just standing there,
Right.
you know, and you could just, none of them want to approach him.
Few of them
right,
were happy to be there.
Right.
But they knew they had to come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to be hunted.
Right.
So then Voldemort goes on to say, like, it's been 13 years since we last met. And yet, you know, I call you guys and you're here like it was yesterday, or we're still united under the dark mark, or are we? So then he dives into, like, hey, how come none of you guys ever came and found me? You're all standing here whole and healthy. You know, I smell some guilt on the air. He goes on to ask, like, how could none of you believe I would never rise again? Are you guys in allegiance with Dumbledore now? Like, that's my number one enemy. And then we see him specifically call Lucius out, too, for not trying to find him. And he scolds him even when Lucius tries to defend himself, saying, well, you still ran when you saw the dark mark at the World Cup. Yeah. So, yeah, I think Voldemort's idea of family is
twisted.
Control.
Mm-hmm.
This is all fear. Nobody's there because they want to be, aside from maybe Barty Crouch Jr., because he's crazy. But it's all fear. None of them want to. There's even a line that says, like, they all look like they want to back away, but wouldn't dare to even move.
Yeah, but Barty Crouch Jr. has, like, father figure issues. He's, like,
True.
looking for a father figure that is not like the one that he has.
That's true.
Yeah, he's an interesting character, and I think that, again, this is just this could be a conversation of, like, mental health help, you know, if he had, not to, you know, talk super bad about Barty Crouch Sr., but not a big fan of him. He clearly was a really horrible father. And I think that, you know, had he been there for his son and noticed what was happening with his son and gotten him help, this could have wound up very differently, very easily differently.
Like, speaking about the politics of family, like, that is just also a responsibility of family, right? To kind of make sure that your family members are safe, and then that they're doing things that are safe to themselves and others. And Barty Crouch was not a good family member because he was largely absent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that that's why Barty Crouch Jr.'s mom was so just devastated about the entire situation, because I think she almost felt lost in it. She just felt lost in the whole thing. Like, she didn't have support from her husband. She knew what, like, I feel for her, honestly. She clearly wanted to try to help Barty Crouch Jr., but she almost felt stuck in the sense that Barty Crouch Sr. was just almost cruel in the way that he handled everything with his son.
He's chasing power instead of chasing those memories with his family, you know?
Right, something. Yeah, I feel for her.
I even feel for Junior, really, because
I do.
He was missing something in his life, and he tried to find that in every other place, and he probably that dark place conveniently found him while he was searching for a higher calling or a new family.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. And I mean, if you're in the wrong state of mind already, you can be manipulated fairly
so easily.
You know, like, you just turn gullible because you just want something that feels like whatever in your head feels like family at that time. You get roped in.
Well, which is something that I think I wish we would have seen a little bit more of, because in Crimes of Grindelwald, we see how Grindelwald was kind of almost poetic.
Oh, yeah.
And you could see how people would follow him.
Oh, yeah. That's what makes him more terrifying to me than Voldemort.
Yes, same here. So I wish we could have seen something about how Voldemort was able to gain followers.
Oh, that'd be so interesting.
Because it's like an abusive relationship, which is like what Voldemort has with his Death Eaters, does not start with control and power. That's how it ends. Like that's way into it. It usually begins like something like what Grindelwald was doing, which is a lot about, like love bombing your audience and finding connections and hooks for them. And once they're in it and that they're not going to leave anytime, then you start the control tactics.
Right.
Oh, that's so good.
So I wish we would have seen that a little bit more, because to me, Voldemort is very two-dimensional because we never get to see that other side of him.
Yeah, I agree.
Dear Joe, please give me another book series where you describe in detail.
Young Tom Riddle. Thank you. Bye. Because we kind of saw him in the diary, but it's not the same.
Right.
So that's just a thought for Joe. Dear Joe, my question is not about Quidditch. Oh, well, my quote is about Peter Pettigrew. And Voldemort says, "You return to me not out of loyalty, but out of fear of your old friends. You deserve this pain, Wormtail. You know that, don't you?" It's just like this mafia-like familial punishment of, I know why you did the quote-unquote thing that I expected you to do, and it wasn't for the right motives. So you deserve some punishment. But then I'm going to give you a silver hand afterwards because you still did the thing I wanted you to do. And also, I am your father, and I can take things away from you, and I can also give you things. And don't you forget that.
Yeah, agreed.
So manipulative. Just, oh my God.
And like, I'm going to give you a silver hand that will turn against you anyway.
Exactly. So just, a self-destruct button.
Right. He does say when he gives it to him, like, your loyalty won't waver again, right?
He does.
Second it does.
Oh, that Voldemort. What a character. You think he makes it to the end of the series?
I don't know. We'll find out.
I don't know.
I guess we'll find out. But
hard to tell.
Speaking of characters, which character in this chapter do you think closely aligns with this politics of family?
So I kind of aligned it with the quote that I chose, and I chose the relationship of Voldemort and his father.
Yeah.
Just because he has this idea of his relationship with his father in his head, but he actually never really had a true relationship with him. He's just kind of like created it, and in his mind, that's what it is. End of conversation.
Yeah, like he decided to make his own narrative.
Yeah, to fit what he needed to. Mm-hmm. And then he basically just, because of that narrative, he feels that he can just use his father however he wants to. Whenever he murdered him, and then whenever he went and used his bones to come back to life again, like, it's almost like his father's just at his disposal.
I mean, that's how he treats muggles.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
I chose this opportunity to call out Wormtail because I can't stand him.
Yep.
I am the biggest Marauders fan, and if I could just forget him as a Marauder, that'd be great. But I wanted to point it out because if you look at Wormtail, he could have had a wonderful family. I don't know what his upbringing was. Maybe it wasn't so great, but he had these 3 friends who would have taken him in. They did take him in. They'd do anything for him. Those 4, James, Sirius, Remus, and Peter, could have been like the end-all be-all of friendship. But he chose a different path. He chose a different family that led to his death, literally. And he caused the death of all his friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy what your choices do. Don't be dumb.
Right.
Don't be a Wormtail.
Don't be a Wormtail.
Yes, that is actually great advice. I co-sign 110%.
Don't be a rat.
Yeah, there you go. No, rats are cool. Don't be a Wormtail though. Wormtail rat.
Don't be this specific type of rat that Wormtail is.
Correct. Don't be an animagus rat.
So for me, it was Voldemort and the Death Eaters because it's like that toxic type of family dynamic that we've been talking about. And it's all about like Voldemort as the head of the family and no one can cross him. And only those who are loyal to him see any rewards. And as we know, those rewards can turn against them at any moment.
Yep.
Yeah. With Voldemort, it's lose-lose no matter what.
Right.
I mean, here's Snape, who, in Voldemort's eyes, was loyal through and through, still kills him because it benefits Voldemort.
Of course it does. I mean...
Whatever helps his
I can't believe I'm
self-gain.
going to say this, but poor Snape.
Oh, no.
Wait, I retract it.
I'm sorry, this is not a Snape apologist podcast.
No, we don't like him either.
This podcast isn't called Sympathies with Snape?
No.
Sympathies with Snape.
I think you're in the wrong recording studio right now.
Oh man, I gotta go.
Oh, Katie, you don't like him.
I don't know. I don't care for him. I can respect what he did very much, but I still do not like him as a human being.
You're such a Hufflepuff.
Thank you.
Every time I see like the always thing,
makes me want to vomit.
And not in a good way.
Meg.
No.
Or like the after all this time, always.
No.
Well,
don't use Lily like that.
How about, will you be with me? Will you stay with me until the very end?
That's great.
Great.
That's great.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's just the always part.
Like, no, he's just creepy.
No,
okay?
he's just an incel, guys.
I'm just going to excuse myself from this narrative. Get pretty deep.
Oh God. Okay. I can't end it on a better note than I'm just going to excuse myself from this narrative. I think it's time to talk about media we've been consuming.
Which is the perfect segue for that.
You're welcome.
Because we have all been consuming the same media, I see.
Yes.
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah. Non-stop repeat Taylor Swift's Lover album.
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm in love with Lover.
Same here. Not sure I love all the tracks, but
Fair.
Paper Rings is amazing.
Oh, Paper Rings is so good. Yeah, no, it takes me a while. So, like, I'm a massive, super massive Taylor Swift fan. And it takes me a while with an album to, like, really love and appreciate every single song on it. But I gotta say, like, there's maybe only 2 or 3 right now that I'm kind of iffy on still. But,
and
like,
you know you'll grow.
I know that I'll grow into them, yes, for sure. But, like, overall, this is just, like, a solid album.
Yeah, I mean, I think I found... I'm one of those people also that needs to grow into some songs. So I know at the end of this... Like, I didn't love Reputation either when it first came out, and then I'm like jamming to all of it, so it doesn't even matter.
Right.
And this is arguably better than Reputation for me. The one that I really got into today driving to my haircut appointment was The Man, because
oh my God, it's my jam.
I was just like, I feel this on a molecular level.
Yeah.
Yes.
So good.
First of all, it's catchy. Mm-hmm. Second, I love, like, the weird things she does with her vocals. Like, you don't expect it. Mm-hmm. And then third, it's like, yes, preach.
Also,
preach.
The shout out to Leo DiCaprio in Save
Right. Yes, I think as well, like, that song is just kind of the feminist anthem from Taylor that I didn't know I needed.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of, like, Beyonce's If I Were a Boy.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yep.
A little bit. But this one was more about, like, female, like badass empowerment in the workplace.
Yes.
Right.
Instead of just, like, in relationships or in society. And I'm just like, yes, Yes, I feel you.
Mm-hmm.
I go through this every single day. I see male idiots who don't get questioned, but I'm questioned every day. Like, does she really know her stuff? Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, the line that said, "When everyone believes you,
Yes.
what's that like?"
Yes.
Oh my God, it was, yeah.
It's like,
when she said that, I like, my jaw dropped to the floor and I looked at Katie and was like, oh my God.
It's like the ultimate mic drop.
It is.
It's so good.
And it's so true. And like, people don't believe it always.
Or, you know, like you walk into a room and you see like, I don't know, and this has happened to me though. Like I've led a meeting with, you know, dudes present, and the people, like my bosses are like questioning me and like almost testing me to see if I know what I'm talking about. And then there's this dude next to me who gets to say like nothing, and he doesn't get tested. And I'm just like, he doesn't know anything, guys. Why don't you ask him the same questions?
Right.
Yeah.
But you also have to be careful how you deliver your messages, because you might just be too aggressive of a human being. No.
Oh, also, I'm too aggressive. It doesn't matter. I don't censor myself anymore because I'm just like, you know what? I am not like this cute little baby human with teeny tiny voice. I just am who I am. And if you don't like it, then I can find another job.
Yeah, I've been working really hard to like reverse how I think of things. Like when I type an email, it'll be like, I think like possibly maybe no, this is how it is.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I'll rewrite it until I'm like, no, this is how you should be saying it.
Like, we couldn't do something the other day, and Katie was like, how does this text sound? And it was something like, I think that maybe I probably wouldn't be able to make it. And I'm like, no, you just need to say, I'm not going to make it.
It's so wired in your brain, though. You got to literally rewrite the way you think.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I was in a meeting the other day. I'm in a lot of meetings, guys. With with my employees, and one of my employees and I were talking about it, and she's this awesome lady. Like, I manage people who are older than me, and sometimes that's weird and sometimes that's great because it depends on the person, obviously. And she was just like, yesterday when you were like lecturing them when they were questioning you and you started pointing your finger like you do, because again, Puerto Rican, I use my hands a lot and I don't know when I'm using them. And you were like pointing at them like, no, blah, 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 and you're wrong because of these reasons. And you were trying to explain to them and they kept pushing back at you. That was awesome. And I was like, I kept pointing at them. I was just so horrified. And she's like, it was great. It was great.
Oh, that's awesome. If you want to feel empowered, go listen to The Man, though.
Yeah.
Oh,
go
no.
do it.
I was just like, oh my God, this was just what happened last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every day of my life, if we're being honest.
Yep.
I also have to shout out London Boy.
Yeah, so good. So good.
Yeah.
Miss Americana and the Heartbreak Prince is growing on me.
I was just going to say super growing on me. At first, I didn't know.
So, like, I read this really great track by track review, and it was talking about Miss Americana and the Heartbreak Prince, and they think that a lot of the references in it are actually to the 2016 election. What? And that it's actually a super political song.
Now you have to go listen again.
They say something like, you know, how she says like something about like the American something fading. It's like something about like the American dreams fading in the background or whatever. And like what they were explaining it as is that she was known as like America's sweetheart of country, but she almost doesn't want to be
that anymore,
known as that right now because she doesn't like how America is. It was very interesting. And it's definitely something she would do because she's super cryptic with her messaging.
Of course she is, yes. I mean...
Yeah. I'll try and find it and maybe I'll post it on Twitter.
Another one that's like growing on me is Death by a Thousand Cuts.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I didn't like that one at first, but the more I listen to it, the more I like it. I love the piano. Oh, so good.
And Soon You'll Get Better was so good. And heartbreaking. Oh, chills.
I have to skip
I've had
it.
to skip it a couple, like not because I don't like it, but it's just very sad.
Well, yeah, it's very emotional. Maybe,
but I love it.
Maybe I can listen to it because my antidepressants are so good, you guys. Oh, I love that we've been consuming the same media. This is great.
Meg saw it on there and she's like, well, that's what I've been doing too. So, yeah, that's just what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's great. I had like a moment where I was a little bit angry with T Swift. I'm not gonna lie, where she was like avoiding being political.
Oh, I know.
But I think we've turned a corner on T Swift politically.
So there was an article that she did an interview with The Guardian, and she was talking about why she didn't endorse somebody in 2016. And she said that she was like mentally in a really bad place, and she felt that her reputation, no pun intended there, was legitimately like really bad. And if she endorsed Hillary Clinton, she thought it would hurt Hillary. And that's why she didn't endorse her, which is silly, but I can like understand it in her headspace. And she said that she's really remorseful about it now, obviously, and that she pledges to do whatever she can in 2020.
All right, well.
So if that helps you out at all.
That does help me. And we don't know what's going on in people's lives anyway, which is something I try to remind everyone. But sometimes it's hard for me to go to my own advice.
Right. Yeah. She was like, I was just in a really bad spot where I couldn't watch the news and I couldn't consume everything I needed to consume. And I didn't want to put myself out there at that moment. So she's like, so all I felt I could do was post a picture of me going to vote and tell people to go and vote. And that's what I did. So.
Well, at least she wasn't like covertly pro-Trump, which was my concern.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
she basically said in the interview she voted for Hillary. So.
Okay, well. That makes it a lot better because let me tell you, every time I see like a red hat, I'm like,
I know.
I don't want to be in that place.
Yep.
I need a red hat that just says this is just a red hat.
Oh, that would be perfect. Or like, I don't know, just like fuck Trump. You know.
Todrick Hall has a hat that says Make America Gay Again, and it's like literally the red hat.
Todrick.
Oh. I love Todrick Hall. He's the best.
I would wear that hat. I'd be worried that people would think it's a MAGA hat, but...
Exactly. That's why I don't even touch that stuff.
And they're like, oh.
Can we have a rainbow hat?
Oh, that would be great.
Oh, there you go.
And we could write it in that same font, but it's a rainbow hat.
Yeah.
I like it.
I feel like we're making money moves here, as Cardi B would say.
$1 million idea.
But enough about Lover and money moves. Tell us about Swish and Flick and where we can find you.
So we are only half of Swish and Flick podcast. We are the Petruses. We also have the O'Malleys, and the four of us each represent a different house. That wasn't on purpose. It literally just happened.
Magic.
So we are just four friends that love to talk Potter, decided to have a book club together, started to read the books, and decided we had a lot more to talk about than we thought we did. So we thought, why not put microphones in front of our face? So we're doing a reread of the series. We're actually pretty much in line with you in terms of where we're at. I think that we're doing this chapter in our next episode. So...
thanks for the prep.
Yeah. So yeah, you can check us out anywhere that you can listen to podcasts. We're on iTunes, Podbean, Google Play, Spotify. Everywhere. Swish and Flick Podcast. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Swish Flickcast and on Facebook at Swish and Flick Podcast.
Oh, I am so excited to have you on because I don't know if you know this, but I think we launched our podcast on the same day.
Really?
Get out.
Yes.
Was it Harry's birthday?
Yes.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
Oh, hey, Pod Twin.
So I remember when we were launching, I was like, oh, there's another Harry Potter podcast launching. And I was like, I followed you guys. And I think I'm like friends, like kind of Twitter friends with Megan. And I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
We're like podcast twins. And we often are like listed on the same lists, like of
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we
recently
are.
we were listed on one of those, like the 30 Harry Potter podcasts you should listen to, and I was just like,
Yes.
and like we have like some listeners that listen to both the podcasts,
Yes.
and they're like, we're at the same chapter, and you guys are at the same chapter, but I get to hear it from different points of view, and I love it.
That's awesome.
So
yeah.
the goal,
So cool.
the real goal here is that you need to listen to both our podcasts because
Correct.
you get different takes on the same chapters. So it's more bang for your ear holes.
Correct.
I was going to say bang for your buck, but it's free. So unless you're a patron.
Right.
And you do
More
have
bang
a
for your ear
Patreon,
hole.
and you have the Felix Files. Tell us more about that.
We do have a Patreon, so you can join us for, like, honestly, you get most of everything for, like, one of our lowest tiers is $5, and you get our bi-monthly bonus episodes. You get to see our docs that we make for the episodes so that you can see if there's anything that we skipped over or what we had to edit and all of that kind of fun stuff. We also have Discord chats that you can join us on while we're recording, which is a lot of fun.
You get a lot of
kind of
participation.
be involved in the episode.
And then we have all the way up to you can get a bi-yearly, is that correct?
Yeah, twice a year, like, subscription box from us with exclusive merch, and then you get to join us on Felix Files episodes and chat with us on Google Hangouts and all that kind of fun stuff.
Oh,
so.
I need to talk to y'all about these Patreon perks because I might need to get some ideas from y'all.
Yeah,
hit us up.
Go check out our. Yeah, I mean, all I did was go look at other people's Patreon when I came up with what we wanted to do.
I do a monthly sticker for $5.
Oh, very cool.
Fun.
That's so funny because, like, back when we first started, we were just thinking about Patreon. We were talking about that as a possibility, or maybe like buttons or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been trying to like evolve it as we go to and like keep it fresh.
Yeah, but I love that idea of like that, yearly, like bi-yearly subscription box type thing.
Yeah, we've got we put like 4 or 5 things in it, and they're all like half of them usually are exclusive to, like, you can only get them with that box.
Yeah, like the stickers for the pod are only available through Patreon. That's it.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah. I might start a shop later on where we can have like different stickers, but the Patreon stickers are just for patrons.
Yeah. I did. I created our shop. Oh yeah. Also, we have a website, swishflickcast.com that I'm very proud of that I actually made. So.
Well, you know what? I think we need to talk more on Twitter about how I can be better at Patreon.
Yeah, hit us up.
Well, we also have our Patreon. It's patreon.com/occupolitics. We get bi-monthly Girl Who Lived podcast episodes where Helene and I go and talk about what the series would look like if Harry Potter was gender swapped. And we have sorts of fun other things like recipes and stickers. So check Occupolitics on Patreon and also Swish and Flick on Patreon. You could be patrons of both.
Yeah, for sure.
Highly recommended.
I mean, for the cost of 2 coffees a month.
Right? You get a ton of content.
Plus, we are kind of on par chapter by chapter.
Right. Yes.
So we're good to go. All right. Thanks, ladies, for joining me.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was a lot of fun.
It was.
That's it for the show today. What did you think? You can email me at info@occupolitics.com. I'd also really love to hear your thoughts on how reading Harry Potter has impacted y'all's politics. So please email me, tweet at me, or leave me a voicemail. The voicemail number is 915-996-1699. Stay tuned for next week's episode. We're going to be talking with Cassie from Podrificus Totalis about the politics of loss in Chapter 34, Priori Incantatem, of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling. But until then, politics managed. Support this podcast for as little as $2 a month on patreon.com/occupolitics. Follow the pod on social at Archaeopolitics on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Email me at info@archaeopolitics.com with your thoughts, theories, and favorite moments of the series. You can also leave me a voicemail to be featured on the podcast at 915-996-1699. Theme music is Think Big by Scott Holmes. This podcast is brought to you by MuggleNet.com.